We got a few really interesting, really crowd-pleasing phones that will just become distant memories because in a couple of weeks, or actually really soon, all of the hole punch and foldable phones will just take over the airwaves. Until that happens, I have been stubbornly using the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3, a phone that managed to be different simply by throwing it back to some old school design. But it's time to answer the question, who is the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3 for? This one's for the throwbacks. You've probably heard me talk a bunch already about how much I love this design. Yes, it is made of ceramic and is slippery, especially when sliding the screen up and down, but there is a good thin case included in the box. That's cool. Yes, there is a separation between the front and back panels, but they snap into the two positions via a couple of really strong magnets. You gotta admit, that's pretty cool. Sliding the screen down reveals the front-facing camera that is hidden away from view and thus kept from taking up any little part of the display. That's really cool. And that same camera array can be used for the face unlock, making this move a part of the daily experience. Cool. We have to give credit where credit is due. Xiaomi made good on their promise. The whole desire with the Mi Mix line was a phone that basically is just a screen in your hand. After a few attempts at putting the camera somewhere while the screen took center stage, they've gone retro in order to solve that problem. And all while making a phone that is signature Xiaomi. Ceramic, eye-catching without being too flashy, and full of potential. And all of that ingenuity was an answer to the notch, the 2018 design choice most people and companies want to leave behind. There is really nothing wrong with all of those design choices unless you really dislike having your content interrupted in any which way. But it's hard to go back to those phones from a viewing standpoint when you get nothing but screen on the Mi Mix 3. Alright, well let's put that Full HD Plus AMOLED screen to work. For the first time in a long time, I had no reservations about zooming into content on the Mi Mix 3 compared to any other phones that have notches. Like when viewing YouTube, pinch to zoom to your heart's content, nothing will be cut. The rounded corners might render some of the edge content a little bit off-screen depending on your source material, but that is not a problem for most applications except for the few that I got with games. Thankfully, this is the only problem that I experienced in any content rendering. This is not a gaming phone in the niche sense, but I would argue that this screen makes it worthy of special consideration. Just like with the media junkies, there's just a joy to having all of the screen available without any interruptions. Though a completely edge-to-edge screen might prove a little troublesome for wayward presses, I've had no issues controlling games for long periods of time. The only thing that I wish is that the screen had a higher refresh rate. Can you imagine how much more of a gamer phone this would be with 120 Hz? Performance specs put the Mi Mix 3 at the top of the heap with the Snapdragon 845, 6 or 8 GB of RAM, and a ton of storage for all of the media and games you might install or download. There is one issue with this otherwise unique and fun design, and no, I'm not talking about how annoying you might be to other people by clicking the screen up and down constantly. I'm kind of talking from experience here. Having a design with potential openings between the two halves of the phone means that water and dust resistance takes a hit. As cool as the retro design may be, retro also means being careful, not getting this tech wet or dug into the sand because it is not IP certified. I've already heard from some of my peers that this is a deal breaker, and if it is for you, I can understand that. Let me know why in the comments down below. Xiaomi outfitted the Mi Mix 3 with the familiar camera array, dual 12-megapixel shooters where one is a 2x optical zoom. In photography, this phone does a pretty great job getting pleasing photos in the right lighting conditions. There actually aren't too many extra modes, which keeps the camera app from being too overwhelming. One new mode included is the night mode though, which takes a bunch of photos in a short period of time in dimly lit situations. What's nice is that the mode doesn't take long to take the photo, though the end result is definitely not as aggressive as ones we've seen from the likes of Huawei or Google. The front-facing shooter is pretty powerful at 24 megapixels, backed by a depth sensor at 2 megapixels. These help to do portraits, which have good cutouts on average. Softness and detail can be adjusted by the beauty modes, which are of course common on phones from China. I'm usually satisfied with pictures coming out of either side of this phone, but there is one task this phone does not manage to fulfill. Video work. Phones that are perfect for vloggers are kind of hard to find in general, but there is one specific thing I can't do with this phone that really bums me out. You know I love the slider, but look what it does to my favorite phone attachments. If I ever wanted to vlog with this phone, I would have to move the phone back to get more inside of the frame. The rear shooters do a pretty good job with video though, with 4K 60 and slow motion modes available for those who want to get a little fancy. I always wish rear shooters had wide-angle lenses, but my clip-on lenses typically take care of that. I just wish that I could say the same for the front. Alright, as is the case for a lot of Xiaomi phones, this one is not for Android purists. MIUI is not everyone's cup of tea, and it hasn't been for quite a while. But the latest version of the global ROM recently released and made this storied operating system much more palatable for general users. There's still no app drawer, but all of the elements are easy on the eyes. The notification dropdown is just bubbly enough without losing functionality. The settings screens are mostly easy to navigate, and there is plenty of customization. With the facelift that MIUI has undergone, I don't think that it will get too overwhelming for most users. Messing around with some of the settings could unlock some fun extras, but there are a few that I will never activate. You know me, I'm talking about the full screen gestures. So finally, the price. This is always a big consideration for Xiaomi, a company that tries really hard to always sell at cost. It is a strategy that has always kept them in the minds of phone addicts, and the Mi Mix 3 is no exception. Think of it this way. Taking away the sliding screen, hell, put a notch on this thing, and you still get a great, well-rounded device that takes good pictures, is a reliable performer, and carries all of that Xiaomi familiar DNA. Now put on the unique, differentiating design back on and realize that the phone is basically under $600 for the premium model. Now that is damn cool. But the conversion from Chinese yuan to dollars is purely informational. Like with most Xiaomi products, it's just a shame that this phone won't make it to the US. After the success of OnePlus penetrating the market and the political hurdles that Huawei is currently struggling through, a company like Xiaomi that is known for shaking up the status quo just might be what we need in the Americas. Their westward expansion is slow but steady, so hopefully there will be a time when we can enjoy phones like this here, even if the slider design is going by the wayside all too soon. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my review of the Xiaomi Mi Mix 3. I adore this phone, and I'll cling to it when the hole punch screens come to remove all memory of these unique phones we got to enjoy at the end of 2018. If you want to hear more of my insights regarding the slider design and how I think it was all too short-lived, you can check out my more conventional review of this phone over at Pocket Now. Subscribe to my channel and to Pocket Now to keep up with everything I'm doing. Hitting that bell wouldn't hurt either. Let's talk about the Mi Mix 3 in the comment sections down below, and look forward to my next video. Until then, I would just remind you to enjoy your tea, everybody.